Hello and welcome to the first episode of One Take Tutorials with me, Amish Hammer. In this video series, I will be going over random questions and trying to do it in one take. So the first pilot episode is just a test, so I am going to do a updated video on what my Backstabber build is in the current time, because the last video I made was almost 2 years ago, so it's time to update it. A lot has changed on Outlands since then, so let's jump into it, guys. I hope everyone is having a good New Year's. Okay, first, let's go over the skills. So, first, this is a Backstabber build. Here are the skills. A quick rundown on them. First, we have camping. This is so that we can... we don't have to rely on a rune book or any shiv or anything. This is probably the best way to start for a new player, so you don't have to waste your money to buy a rune book, a bless deed for it. You don't have to get someone to mark a rune, all that stuff. For this, it increases your damage, it increases your carry weight, it gives you a damage bonus, and if you do die or you just need to get around, you can go to any tree, skin the tree, place it down, and unlock any locations. Most locations will be unlocked at level 100, so even if you can't get to 120 right away, this will do good enough for you at 100. You can still go to most places, you just can't go to a custom location. So at 120, you will be able to go to a custom location. You get 3 spots naturally at the start, and then you can buy more spots if you do need it. Okay, next is stealth. Okay, stealth is definitely a needed skill for backstabbing. It is probably the most important one other than hiding. This easily increases your damage output by a drastic amount. At 120, let's see. At 120, if you go here and you hit presume a stealth backstab, you can see down here where it says stealth skill bonus, I get a 1080% damage increase just because I have 120 stealth. Now, stealth is also very important for some other reasons. I will get into that when we get to the codex part. So just hold on for now. We will get into that. Hiding, self-explanatory. You need hiding to be able to use stealth. You need hiding to be able to use the thief codex. So we will get into that again. Tactics is next. Tactics. The only reason I really have tactics is because I do not like using ruffian for the thief codex, because I will sometimes run around with my backstabber with other people, and since other people probably will kill things before I can get the 10-second cooldown to do a backstab, I just run with a regular weapon and just don't even backstab. So tactics is kind of needed for the accuracy and the damage output, so you could just casually play as I guess a warrior, but you're not really going to have any good healing techniques, so I just use it to balance things out other than sacrificing those points with ruffian. We'll get into that later as well. Stealing. So this build, unlike my original backstabber, is a mugging backstabber, and mugging is an update that happened to stealing since our last backstab video. If you guys do not know, there was a massive overhaul for thieves, So now you can steal from mobs. There's two ways. You can steal directly with the stealing skill. You just click on the mob, and that is called a pilfer. And then there is a second way called mugging, which requires you to backstab something. And whenever you backstab a creature, it attempts to have a stealing attempt. And you steal, I think it's 25% of the gold that is going to be dropping on that creature, but it doesn't take from the final loot pack. So if a creature drops 1,000 gold, I will get 250 gold, but it will not take the 250 gold from the final loot pack. So I will be getting 1,250 gold instead. Okay. Self-explanatory. Not going to go too deep into that right now. Okay, next we have fencing. Why choose fencing, you say? It's not the strongest, but the only reason I chose fencing, or there's two reasons. Fencing is very fast. Doesn't have like the most insane damage output, but if you want to stick around and swing and hit things after you do a backstab, you can do it really fast. Second, in the codex there is a skill called Blackguard, and that is one of the main features of this build. We will go over that in a second. I forgot to say, you do need 80 tactics or higher and 80 of a weapon skill or higher to use the codex. So that is why we also have tactics. If you do not have those two, then you cannot use the weapon codex. There's more stuff for the thief codex. I think you need to have 80 hiding and 80 stealing or higher to use that. We will go into that after we get done this. Okay, next. Tracking. Not needed. This is the one skill that you can mess around with and switch it with a different skill if you really want to. They did just have a update recently to alchemy, so now if you go 80 alchemy, you do not need to disarm to chug any pots, so that would be a good option. There's a lot of buffs there. You could use, if you really want to, you can go like parry instead of tracking, and then you could have the parry codex with a backstabber, so then you get all those bonuses from the parry codex. You can do skinning. You can do there's so many options, but tracking is the one I chose because the play style of a backstabber is you want to kind of stay in one spot in a dungeon until you're full and you want to leave. So tracking will give you that damage bonus that you need, but also it'll allow you to track reds. And that's super handy when you're just casually farming. If you pick up start tracking a red in the distance, then you just know, oh hey, I probably shouldn't backstab right now because they might track you as well. So you just sit there for a minute or two and just wait till they go away. It's super handy. Okay, next. This is the meat and bones of this video. We are going into the Thief Codex. So first, I'm going to go over all of the skills that I personally use. I have the details for every one of them. I will go over what every one of them does. First, we're going to do distraction. The reason we have distraction is sometimes when you are close range and you do a backstab, you will get retaliated when you're trying to run away. You don't always fight close range mobs, unfortunately. Usually mobs that have ranged attacks like mages or archers are usually the ones that have lower armor, so you can easily kill them faster. but sometimes they will still live and do the damage to you while you're running away. So that's why you have to play smart. But distraction helps with that. I only have points to do one tier in it. So this, after doing a mugging attempt, or yeah, anytime I attempt to steal, so that's mugging or pilfering, for the next 10 seconds, I get a 7% damage reduction. That is all damage. Damage resistance is all damage across the board. So that's spell damage, that's physical damage, that is special damage. Most mobs have special attacks. So if you think of like a mummy in ossuary, their special attack is when they hit you, there is a chance they can cause a disease attack. That disease will keep ticking, but for the 10 seconds after you attempt to steal from them, you will take 7% less damage, even if it's from that disease. Now, this really goes well with the shadow aspect armor. Down here, at backstab accuracy, damage, and damage resistance bonus for 10 seconds. So whenever you do a backstab, for the 10 seconds afterwards, you will get a massive damage reduction. So that scales with this. So I would be getting almost 61% damage reduction every time I do a backstab if I fail to do a steal. But it still attempts to do stealing even if you succeed. So you're still going to get that regardless. Next, extortion. Extortion is a massive one for people that are playing strictly for the black goods, or if you don't want to leave the dungeon, this is probably the best way to increase your income while not forcing yourself to try the harder stuff. So black good or extortion will give you at tier 3 a 21% chance to increase the gold that you steal by 100%. And if you receive a black good when extortion goes off, then you get twice as much. So what that means is if I backstab a creature that drops 1,000 gold and I get a extortion off at tier 3, I would be getting, well, it doesn't matter what tier it is, but if I get extortion off when I do that stealing attempt, instead of getting 250 gold, I'd be getting 500 gold plus the 1,000 gold that I get from killing the creature. So you're getting more gold, which is really handy. Next is Overlooked. So Overlooked is also very, very handy, especially for a backstabber who is close range. Basically, this skill at tier 3, or what this skill does, regardless of the tier, it reduces the range that a mob can aggro you from. So I don't know off the top of my head exactly what the range is. I think the max range is 10 tiles for a mob to aggro you. If you're tier 3, you would have to be at 7 tiles away from the mob before it can aggro you. So this is very handy because mobs take a while to scan where the player is. So while you have a lower aggro range, as a close range melee character, if you really wanted to, you can run up to a mob and hit hide quickly before it can aggro you. If it was 10 tiles away, it would have a much higher chance to aggro you before you can get to the mob. This is a very bad way to play the style for a close range melee build, usually you just want to stealth up to the mob. But this is also a way that works, so definitely handy. You also get a permanent increase to the gold that you steal. Very handy. So every time I backstab something, I get 8% increase to the gold that I steal. This also stacks with extortion. Okay, next. Age 2, ransacked. So this one is the gray area. You don't really need this one, but if you're a backstabber, it is also very handy. So, at 120 stealth, you get a 12 stealth steps, but then you also get bonus from shadow aspect armor. So I get bonus stealth steps. So I have I think I have around 22 stealth steps. If you have ransack 3, for every stealth step that you have when you do a backstab attempt, if you have, it goes up to 10. So if I spent 12 stealth steps and I had 10 remaining, for each stealth step that I had remaining when I did the attack, I would get a 3% damage bonus for each of those steps for a max of 30% damage increase. So that is very handy. It's a pretty big damage increase, so definitely recommend that one. Next, so Shadow Hands is the one that is very important. So this is why our skills looked a little weird. So normally when you here, I'll pull this back up. When you do a stealing or a pilfer or a mugging attempt, they do a skill check. So they do a snooping skill check to see if you can get, if you have snooping, then if you have snooping, then you have a 25% higher chance to successfully steal something. As well as if you're hidden / stealth, you get a damage, or you get a success chance bonus. And then you also have to have stealing. That is how stealing works against mobs. There is a skill check. So you can do it without hiding or without snooping, but then you only have a 50% chance to successfully steal, but you get this retaliation chance. That's the one perk that, or I guess negative. You can't just run up to a mob and steal, because if you get retaliated because you fail your steal attempt, then you take about 35 damage. So it's not very fun. So this is where Shadow Hands comes in to make this build work properly. Shadow Hands is the most important skill in the Thief Codex for this build. It's definitely the one I recommend to get first. So you need to run a regular thief build for for the first 6 points of the codex. You need to actually play a regular thief, get those 6 points, and then once you get those 6 points, you can run this build. I was told by a friend recently that it took him about an hour to get those 6 points, and then he trained AFK for the rest of the night and got the rest of the build finished, so then he could play the build how it's designed. But Shadow Hands, basically, if you have tier 3 like I have, it replaces the need for snooping if you have 100 hiding. So you're getting 200 points of skill with one perk, basically. So at tier 3, I have 100 hiding, which is needed for, well, it's not needed. It's very useful for a backstabber to have high stealth or hiding. So at 100 hiding, it's like I have 100 hiding and 100 snooping. So very, very handy. Definitely recommend getting this first. Okay, next is Without Trace. This one, it is nice to have. I might relocate some points to put in tier 3 for this, but basically this lowers the cooldown that you need for a smoke bomb. Smoke bombs, I think, usually have a 2-minute cooldown to use. Once that cooldown is set, you really have to wait. The reason I chose this one specific is because of how I play a backstabber. This build only has 2 ways to heal itself. So you have the healing effect from Shadow Aspect, where you can stealth around and heal yourself. There is a small chance that you will heal yourself whenever you step. I think it goes 5 HP per step if you do get it off. And then healing pots. So the way I play, I usually save my smoke bombs specifically for times when I get bled or diseased, because those are lasting effects, and there are mobs out there that will hit you with a disease or a bleed that does like 25 damage a tick. So how I play is I will wait for the 10-second damage resistance buff to go away, and then I will put those points, or I will chug a pot. Then I will throw down a smoke bomb. Smoke bombs instantly put you in the stealth instead of you having to wait 10 seconds. So I will throw down the smoke bomb and start stealthing around. So then I will constantly be getting a healing effect most of the time. So that way I cannot die to the disease and poison and bleeds. It's a RNG chance that you will actually die, but it's also RNG that you'll heal yourself. So this is the best way to survive this without having any other means. Now, if you wanted to play extra cautious, you could carry around cleansing pots, which would reduce the damage that you take from bleeds and disease, which would be very handy. But you also need to choose your battles wisely as a backstabber. So if you're not comfortable fighting a disease or a bleed monster, don't do it. Simple as that. Let's see, what else? Oh, our next thing we have to go over is the Thief Codex. So the only skill I use is... Ooh, I can get this. The only skill I use on this build is Blackguard. Now, this is probably the best part of this build other than the Thief Codex. Blackguard will cause a disease at so you gain a 4% chance per rank to inflict a disease on hit. So a 28% chance at tier 7, which is fantastic. This disease scales with the damage that you do. Now, what that means is when you do a backstab and say you hit something for 3,000 damage and you get the Blackguard off on that backstab, that disease is going to scale with that 3,000 damage for 30 seconds. So every tick, it's going to do what? 900 damage a tick for 30 seconds. So it's extremely handy. It's just, like I said earlier, it's an RNG chance to get that disease off. Unfortunately, it's only a 28% chance at tier 7, but when you do get it off, it is fantastic. I have done this to a boss once, where I backstabbed the boss one time, just so I could steal the gold and a black good off the boss. But I also got the black art off, and I hit the boss one time. And in the boss results, it said I did 10,000 plus damage in a single shot because I got that disease off. And it was only a single hit, technically. So it's definitely worth giving it a try. Now, some will say, hey, why not do a swordsman backstabber? You can get the a much higher chance to get the bleeds off with arms lore and swordsmanship. This is true. You can get swordsmanship with flaying, which increases the damage that your bleeds do, and then you can also use arms lore, which increases the odds. So instead of having a 28% chance, you could probably have maybe a 50% chance to get a bleed off, which is nice. But with that, I will close this. With that, you have to sacrifice skill points. So you would have to sacrifice 120 points to get the max amount chance to cause a bleed with swordsmanship. Now, this build is specifically designed with a certain amount of skills in place. I cannot fit 120 points into another skill. So, either I can strictly pull up, I could strictly remove the need for tactics with Ruffian. With Ruffian, you get rid of the need of tactics, but then you can only do backstabs at that time. So every hit you have to do is a backstab. So it's not really worth the sacrifice, in my opinion. There are builds that do sacrifice tactics and put on Ruffian, and I've seen people run poison backstab builds, which is very handy. But I do not think the sacrifice and the damage output is worth it. Another skill that I've been asked about is, why do I not have arms lore or anatomy? Anatomy and arms lore both lead to the disarm ability. That is a very powerful ability for a backstabber because it increases the damage you do to that mob that you disarm for, I think, 30 seconds, which is really, really nice. Again, I cannot fit that amount of skill on here. If I could, I would. I chose not to do arms lore or anatomy because I felt that the damage output was not good enough for the sacrifice that you need to make for it. So next, I'm going to try and speed run the rest of this, guys, because this is getting a long video. The only things that you really need for this build, so they recently added this cooldown feature. This is a massive game changer. So before, in the old backstab video, I had a macro that would count down over my head to tell me when I should backstab. Now there is the cooldown bar, which is very handy. So each of these are custom cooldowns that I have made based on certain skills I use. So now if I hide, you will see that I start counting down. So that lets me know, hey, when this bar is empty, I could start stealthing. So now I have an overhead message that says stealth is ready. But if I take a step, it starts counting down that stealth is ready. Now, when stealth is at like 1 or 2 seconds, that is when you want to do a backstab. So these two are very handy to have. This is a visual reminder of when you should backstab. It also allows you to know when it's okay to backstab and then run around the corner and you'll instantly be able to hide. If you do the backstab when stealth is at like 9 seconds, then you still have to wait those 9 seconds to be able to hide again, which is not a very smart thing to do because you do not have much success at defending yourself. After that is Blackguard. This is not needed, but it's very handy. This one will count down whenever you get a Blackguard off. You get a system message that tells you, hey, you got it off, and it starts counting down those 30 seconds. Now, this is not a needed thing, but the reason I have this is because it will start counting down. So if you see a mob, or if you backstab a mob and get the Blackguard off, and the mob has 25% HP, you can just sit there and watch the mob slowly kill itself instead of having to waste your cooldown and going to backstab it again. You can tell if you need to do it again. Smoke bomb, not very needed. This one does alter based on how much you have in the without a trace perk. So this one does lower the cooldown rate. So if you do want to make one of these, you can. It's not the most needed. You will get a system message that tells you when it's okay to use a smoke bomb again. So that is it. If you do have any questions, I will just send them into the comments. I will go out of my way and help you guys. That is what this video series is all about. I'm here to help everyone. If you do have questions or any suggestions for the next videos, this series is going to be based off of the players. So if you guys have questions, I will try my best to answer all those questions and make a video for each of them. The next upcoming videos I do have planned are for the codexes. So I'm going to go over every one of the weapon codexes for any warrior or bard, anyone that uses them. I'm going to go over them and go into detail for every one of the stances, so you guys know exactly what each stance does. I will explain it the best I can. That way, so you know exactly what you're getting yourself into when you use a certain stance. After that, we will see what pops up. If anyone has any suggestions, I will follow those. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining me for this pilot episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you do have any questions, please message me and I will be glad to help you out. Anyway, you guys have a fantastic day. Good night. I will see you around.